Hi, this is Angela with Danceable Thoughts, and I'm very excited to talk to you about my insights into something I call priority blocking, or using a home block to stage my dancers. You may have this little card that is a grid that represents the dancers on the floor in a windowed formation, and there's color coding. On the back of the card, there's some explanation of what those colors mean. They are attributes or characteristics of the dancers that you would be blocking or staging into those different areas on the floor. I come to these ideas from a couple of different sources. I was a Texas high school dance team director for years and years and years, and sometimes I would stage as few as 5 to 8 dancers, and sometimes it might be 70 or 80 dancers. I used my insights from understanding theatrical blocking, as if a director was blocking actors on a stage, and my experience working with Texas marching bands, which is a huge 6 to 8 minute production where we have flags and rifles, the color guard, all the pageantry, and my dancers were a part of that. So I had an innate understanding of how it was important to move different groups into the spotlight at different times. So using those concepts and then my experience with my team, I over years developed something I called using a home block. So let me explain to you how using a home block worked for me. So imagine that there's always that moment in your choreography where you have maximum impact. You have all of your performers on the stage, usually doing something unison or some cool visuals, and that is a big wow moment. For me, as a choreographer and a director, I loved it when someone might compliment, I love that stunt, or that dancer over there, she was really drawing my focus, she was wonderful. Of course, I'm happy for those achievements, but I really felt like I had accomplished something when somebody was wowed by the overall performance of my team. So utilizing that idea, I would take this idea of creating this block as a central and first way of putting my performers into their spots. So how would this work? So I would watch my dancers learning their choreography. I would be assessing them the whole time. And when they were learning the choreography, they could be anywhere. They would probably learn part A or part B with the understanding that they might have that part changed over time when we got to the actual staging of the performance. So after I had watched them working and learning the choreography, I would do my own work on my own time away from the studio space, and I would build a windowed rectangular form, and I would create it with numbers, and I would also have a separate sheet, would have all the numbers and then their initials written out by the side of it, so that I could be looking at number 7, number 8, and I could always glance and know that that was Bobby or Susie, whoever that dancer might be. So after I've taken the time and thought through, I want to stage these dancers here with some instincts and thinking about, all right, these girls look really great together. This group, this pas de deux group, when they come through, I want them to pass across center. I would think through that, thinking both forward and backwards from the home block. But most of all, I would concentrate on that high impact moment of how the group looked when they were all staged together. So I would take that to my dancers in the rehearsal space. I would set them in the home block, and we would work the choreography. All of the choreography, so I could start seeing, again, it's another level of assessment. How do they look together? I'm looking for movers who complement each other. And I'm also, realistically, I'm looking to say, all right, this particular dancer's not super strong. So just like any good theater director will tell you, there are certain ways that you can pull focus. You know, an audience looks center and then reads across. I would be very strategic in where I might put someone that was a little bit weaker in one section or other, just like I would do the same thing for the really strong performers. So after this home block is created and I've watched them performing it for a few times in my rehearsal space, I've got a better idea of how I want the forms to move. So then I would again go back to my own time and I would work on my forms, the formations that would come before it, formations and the traveling patterns that would go after it, and I would look to see, I'm always using those numbers, how those dancers were going to be moving around. So just like a coach of an athletic sport, I understood the attributes of my performers, and I had insight into the way they were working in the current choreography, and so I could make adjustments on the piece of paper before I got to the rehearsal time. So it's a very efficient way to work with your group, to prepare mentally with them before you are physically in the space and using that valuable time. So this is a really simplistic way of thinking about it, but again, you can look at this and it will tell you there's some color coding. Of course, your strongest dancers are in the middle. I would always block my strongest dancers first, and then I would block my weakest dancers out to the outsides, again, knowing where they're going to do it. And then I always talked about the gray areas on this card. Those are those really, secondary level successful dancers. They're good. They're not quite at the great level. I really looked at them from 2 points of view, who I could count on to be rock solid and who might need to be, shall we say, imprinting on another performer, needed to be there for them to watch and for them to mimic in a sense. And then the last thing is my orange performers, who are often down front and outsides, and they're also going to end up being the people a lot of times that cross over in the front when you have groups that are moving through. Those rock solid performers, those are those fantastic dancers who, they aren't the superstars that might be in that center T of the formation, but they are just rock solid, and you know that when a judge glances left or right, that they're going to catch that performer doing something fantastic. So this is my insight onto the way that I do priority blocking. I hope it gives you some insights into working with your team, and I look forward to talking with you in the future with other ideas about my danceable thoughts.